Did you know that Montana once played a critical role in America's nuclear history, with some of the world's earliest nuclear weapons activated beneath its vast skies? That beneath its soil lies some of the largest coal reserves on Earth? Or that Montana has yielded some of the largest dinosaur fossils ever discovered, including species found nowhere else in the world? Montana is not just the Big Sky State. It is history etched into the land. It is buried wealth beneath the plains, and it is raw, unstoppable natural force. Today, you'll discover 35 incredible facts about Montana, facts that will completely change how you see the American West. 35. The hydrological apex of North America. Deep within Glacier National Park lies a remarkable place called Triple Divide Peak, a rare geographic point where the destiny of water splits three ways. A single raindrop falling on this summit can begin three entirely different journeys, depending on which side of the peak it slides down. On one slope, the water enters the Columbia River system, flowing west until it reaches the Pacific Ocean. On another, it travels into the Missouri and Mississippi rivers, winding thousands of miles south to the Gulf of Mexico and the Atlantic Ocean. The third path sends water north through the Saskatchewan River drainage, eventually reaching Hudson Bay and the Arctic Ocean. 34. The day the sky dropped a giant plate. In the winter of 1887, the small community of Fort Keogh, Montana, witnessed a weather event that defied all logic. When we think of snow, we imagine tiny, fragile flakes that melt the moment they touch our skin. But Montana's atmosphere once produced something far more terrifying. According to historical records, a single snowflake fell that measured 15 inches wide and 8 inches thick. To put that into perspective, it was roughly the size of a large pizza, or a dinner plate, falling straight from the sky. Imagine walking through a blizzard and being struck not by a flurry, but by one massive slab of ice, large enough to cover your entire face. This phenomenon occurred because Montana's dramatic transition from mountain terrain to open prairie can create the perfect balance of moisture and temperature, allowing snow crystals to collide, stick together, and grow into enormous aggregates. To this day, this event holds the record as the largest snowflake ever documented in world history. 33. A freshwater giant of the West. When Americans think of massive lakes, their minds usually jump to the Great Lakes along the Canadian border. But west of the Mississippi River, the largest natural freshwater lake lies quietly in northwestern Montana, and it's far bigger than most people realize. Flathead Lake is a true giant, stretching nearly 28 miles long and 15 miles wide, covering about 200 square miles of surface area, making it significantly larger than Lake Tahoe. Fed by pristine mountain runoff, the lake's water is famously pure and remarkably clear. On a calm day, you can peer straight down and see rocks resting 20 to 30 feet below, creating the eerie sensation that your boat is floating in midair. This clarity comes from the surrounding mountains, which naturally filter the water as it flows into the basin. Flathead Lake is a remnant of the last ice age, carved and filled by retreating glaciers thousands of years ago, a living reminder of the immense power ice once held over the landscape. And as you drift across its glassy surface, it's hard not to feel it, the quiet presence of something ancient, deep, and far larger than it appears. 32. The Great Wall that nature built. Deep within Montana's Bob Marshall Wilderness stands a geological formation so dramatic it shares a name with one of the most famous structures on Earth. Known as the Chinese Wall, this massive limestone escarpment stretches for nearly 15 miles and rises up to 1,000 feet high. Unlike its man-made namesake, this wall was shaped entirely by nature. It formed along a powerful thrust fault, where ancient rock was forced upward and over younger layers, creating a towering, sheer cliff that slices cleanly through the wilderness. For hikers, especially those who have trekked sections of the Continental Divide Trail, the moment this vertical wall of stone suddenly emerges from the forest is unforgettable. It feels less like a cliff and more like a fortress built for giants, drawing a razor-straight line across the landscape. The Chinese Wall stands as a dramatic boundary between the eastern and western slopes of the mountains, a silent, immovable barrier carved by forces far beyond human scale. And when you finally reach its base and look up, one thought becomes unavoidable. This is what the Earth builds when no one is watching. 31. Mountains that are basically islands. Montana is home to a rare geographic phenomenon known as island mountain ranges. While the main Rocky Mountains form a long, continuous chain, central Montana tells a very different story. Here, smaller mountain ranges rise in complete isolation, surrounded on all sides by vast stretches of flat prairie. Ranges such as the Big Snowy Mountains, the Crazy Mountains, and the Judith Mountains seem to erupt straight out of the plains, like rocky islands emerging from a sea of grass. From a distance, they appear almost out of place, standing alone against the horizon. Because these ranges are so isolated, They often develop their own microclimates and can even host unique plant and animal subspecies, slightly different from their relatives in the main Rockies. Over time, nature treats them as separate worlds, cut off and evolving on their own. Before we continue, make sure to subscribe and leave a like to keep exploring the strange and incredible geography of our country. Because out there on the open plains, some mountains aren't connected at all. They're standing alone, shaped by isolation and by time itself. 30. The disappearing ice giants. Glacier National Park is famous for the features that gave it its name, but the geography of the park is changing faster than most visitors realize. When the park was established in 1910, scientists estimated that nearly 150 active glaciers covered its peaks and valleys. Today, that number has dropped dramatically. Only about 25 glaciers remain large enough to meet the scientific definition of an active glacier. To qualify, a glacier must be at least 25 acres in size. Anything smaller is considered little more than a permanent snowfield. As climate patterns have shifted, these once massive rivers of ice have steadily retreated, shrinking back into the highest, coldest shadows of the mountains. What visitors see now is a landscape in transition, one where the forces that carved deep valleys and sharp ridgelines are slowly fading from view. The jagged, raw topography of the park tells the story of what once dominated this land. And as the ice continues to vanish, one question lingers in the silence of the peaks: how much longer will these giants exist at all? 29. The Badlands of the North. Most people think of Badlands in South Dakota, but Montana's Makashika State Park rivals them. Near Glendive, this vast park features rugged, alien-like terrain of hoodoos, caprocks, and deep coulees, part of the Hell Creek Formation, famed for dinosaur fossils. Makashika comes from a Lakota phrase meaning badland. Erosion has stripped the soil, revealing layers of prehistoric history. 10 dinosaur species have been discovered here. Walking among these formations feels like stepping 65 million years into the past, where every jagged ridge whispers secrets of a vanished world. 28. A spring that moves a river. In Great Falls, Montana, Giant Spring State Park is home to one of the world's largest freshwater springs. What makes it fascinating is its underground journey. The water bubbling up today fell as snow or rain in the Little Belt Mountains nearly 3,000 years ago. Over millennia, it filtered through limestone aquifers, emerging at a constant 54 degrees Fahrenheit. The spring discharges an astonishing 156 million gallons of water daily, forming the Roe River, once known as the world's shortest river at just 200 feet before joining the Missouri River. Giant Springs is a hidden natural plumbing system, a quiet reminder that beneath our feet, water travels vast distances and centuries before finally reappearing. 27. The Highway Above the Clouds. To experience Montana's highest geography by car, you must drive the Beartooth Highway. This stretch of U.S. Route 212 climbs to nearly 11,000 feet at Beartooth Pass, crossing multiple life zones along the way. At its peak, you enter alpine tundra, where the ground remains frozen most of the year and trees cannot survive. The landscape is dominated by glacial cirques and high-altitude plateaus, resembling the surface of the moon more than the United States. Often called the most beautiful drive in America, it lets you look down on the tops of other mountain ranges. But this highway is not easily tamed. Massive snow drifts keep it closed for much of the year, guarding its secrets above the clouds. 26. A border without a fence. Montana shares a massive 545-mile border with Canada, the longest undefended border in the world. Most of this boundary follows the 49th parallel, a straight line of latitude that cuts across mountains, rivers, and valleys without regard for the terrain. To mark it, a cleared strip called the Border Vista slices through forests about 20 feet wide, visible even from the air. In remote areas, hikers can walk right up to the line and stand with one foot in each country, surrounded by endless wilderness and simple stone monuments marking the edge of a nation. Here, geography and politics intersect, creating a place where the boundary is both invisible to the eye and impossible to ignore. 25. The richest hill on Earth. Montana sits atop one of the most geographically significant mineral deposits ever discovered. Known as the richest hill on Earth, this area was once the primary source of copper for the entire United States during the Industrial Revolution. The city's geography is shaped by its mining history, with over 500 miles of underground tunnel crisscrossing beneath its streets. Decades of metal extraction have even caused the ground to shift in places. The most famous scar is the Berkeley Pit, a former open-pit mine now filled with highly acidic, metal-laden water. At over a mile long and nearly 2,000 feet deep, it forms a massive artificial lake in the middle of a mountain valley. A stark reminder of how human ambition can permanently reshape the earth, and its depths hide a silent, toxic power that never sleeps. 24. the gates that captivated explorers. In 1805, Lewis and Clark navigated the Missouri River and encountered a geological wonder that Meriwether Lewis called the most remarkable cliffs he had ever seen, the Gates of the Mountains. Here, the river cuts a deep, narrow canyon through limestone walls rising up to 200 feet. The walls are so vertical that, from a distance, the river seems completely blocked until you reach the bend, where the cliffs swing open like giant gates. This 5-mile stretch of river remains largely unchanged since the explorers first saw it, offering a glimpse into the raw power of water carving through solid rock. Stand here long enough, and you feel the force of centuries pressing silently against stone. 23. The Roof of Montana. When people think of the highest peaks in the lower 48, they often name Colorado or California. But Montana's Granite Peak, at 12,799 feet, is the crown of the Beartooth Range and one of the most difficult state high points to reach. Its geography is brutal. Extreme isolation, sheer vertical granite walls, and jagged fields block the summit. Unlike easier high points, reaching the top often requires technical rock climbing. The mountain's weather is unpredictable, creating sudden storms that can turn a sunny day into a blizzard within minutes. Many climbers have turned back just hundreds of feet from the summit, humbled by a peak that refuses to be conquered. Here, the Roof of Montana doesn't give in, it demands respect. 22. Rare blue gems hidden in the Little Belts. Montana is the only place in the world where the highly coveted Yogo sapphire is found. These gems emerge from a narrow area called Yogo Gulch in the Little Belt Mountains of central Montana. Unlike most sapphires, which are smoothed by rivers, Yogo sapphires are mined in their original igneous rock, showcasing a natural cornflower blue hue and extraordinary clarity. No heat treatment required. The Yogo Dike, the specific vein where they form, is geologically unique, the only known igneous rock in the world to produce sapphires. Millions of years ago, a singular geological event created this hidden treasure, one that remains entirely unmatched anywhere else on Earth. 21. A shoreline longer than the Pacific coast. It's hard to grasp the size of Fort Peck Lake in eastern Montana. Created in the 1930s by the Fort Peck Dam on the Missouri River, it's now a haven for fishing and boating, but its geography holds a mind-boggling fact. The shoreline stretches over 1,500 miles. That's longer than the combined Pacific coasts of California, Oregon, and Washington. The surrounding land, full of rugged breaks and coulees, forces the water into countless bays and inlets, creating a labyrinthine shoreline that seems endless. Standing on the edge of what locals call the Prairie Ocean, it's impossible not to feel dwarfed by the sheer scale of water hidden in the heart of the Great Plains. 20. The ghost of a massive inland sea. Look at the Missoula Valley today, and you'll notice strange horizontal lines etched into the surrounding mountains, ancient shorelines of glacial Lake Missoula. About 15,000 years ago, an ice dam blocked the Clark Fork River, creating a lake the size of Lake Ontario and Lake Erie combined. When the ice dam finally burst, it unleashed a wall of water hundreds of feet high, racing across Idaho and Washington toward the Pacific. These Missoula floods reshaped the Pacific Northwest, carving the dramatic channeled scablands we see today. Standing in downtown Missoula, it's humbling to realize that 2,000 feet of water once covered this valley, a ghostly reminder of nature's immense and unstoppable power. 19. A lake born in a single night. Montana's geography can change in an instant, as shown by Earthquake Lake. On a late night in August 1959, a 7.3 magnitude earthquake shook the Madison River Canyon near West Yellowstone. The quake triggered a massive mountainside collapse, sending 80 million tons of rock and debris crashing into the valley. The landslide completely blocked the Madison River, creating a natural dam over 200 feet tall. In the days that followed, water backed up behind this rocky wall, forming a brand new lake, what we now call Earthquake Lake. A lake born overnight, it stands as a stark reminder that in Montana, the land itself can move and reshape life in a single moment. 18. The longest free-flowing river in the nation. The Yellowstone River is a geographical icon for a reason. Stretching 692 miles from its source in Wyoming through Montana to the Missouri River, it is the longest undammed river in the contiguous United States. Unlike most major rivers, which are controlled by dams for power or irrigation, the Yellowstone remains wild and free-flowing. Its natural floods and shifting channels create rich habitats for wildlife and preserve the dynamic geography of a river largely untouched by humans. Floating down the Yellowstone is like traveling back in time, winding through the same canyons that explorers saw centuries ago, a rare and powerful reminder of the untamed American West. 17. The world record for a temperature roller coaster. Montana's geography makes it a hotspot for extreme weather, thanks to Chinook winds, warm, dry gusts that descend from the mountains and can raise temperatures in minutes. In January 1972, the small town of Loma set a world record that still stands. In just 24 hours, the temperature soared 103 degrees Fahrenheit, climbing from minus 54 degrees Fahrenheit to 49 degrees Fahrenheit. This dramatic swing happens because the Rocky Mountain front funnels cold Arctic air out while warm Pacific air rushes downward. Imagine waking in a frozen dawn, only to shed your winter coat by lunchtime as spring arrives in an instant. Montana's mountains don't just shape the land, they reshape the weather, turning life into a roller coaster of extremes. 16. The birthplace of the mighty Missouri. Near the town of Three Forks, Montana, the landscape produces one of North America's most significant river confluences. Here, the Jefferson, Madison, and Gallatin rivers merge to officially form the Missouri River. In 1805, Lewis and Clark marveled at the wide, flat valley surrounded by distant peaks, spending days determining which branch was the true source. Today, Missouri Headwaters State Park preserves this historic site, allowing visitors to stand where these three mountain rivers converge into a single waterway that travels over 2,000 miles to meet the Mississippi. For thousands of years, this geographic crossroads has guided indigenous people and explorers alike, a place where mountains, rivers, and history collide, shaping the course of a continent. 15. A mountain range saved for the buffalo. In western Montana lies the National Bison Range. More than a park, it's a small, isolated mountain range in the Mission Mountains foothills, set aside in 1908 to protect the American bison. The rolling grasslands and steep rocky ridges create the perfect habitat for these iconic animals. Much of this land was once submerged under prehistoric glacial Lake Missoula, and from the top of Red Sleep Mountain, you can still see the ancient strand lines marking where water once stood. Here, biological conservation and ancient geology collide, offering a glimpse of how the land shaped life, and how humans stepped in to preserve it. It's a place where history, wildlife, and mountains meet in silent grandeur. 14. Standing exactly halfway to the North Pole. At Montana's southern edge near Gardiner, a marker stands for the 45th parallel, a line of latitude exactly halfway between the equator and the North Pole. While this line circles the globe, the geography near Yellowstone National Park makes it a popular stop for travelers to pause and snap a photo. A famous sign by the Gardiner River marks this invisible boundary. Interestingly, 19th century surveyors intended the Montana-Wyoming border to follow this parallel, but human error crept in. Modern GPS shows the line doesn't always perfectly align, a subtle reminder that even in precise geography, nature and history leave room for surprises. Standing here, you're literally at the midpoint of the northern world, a quiet, humbling spot on Earth. 13. The dramatic wall where plains meet peaks. One of Montana's most striking features is the Rocky Mountain front, a massive escarpment where the flat Great Plains abruptly rise into the jagged peaks of the Rockies. Unlike ranges with gentle foothills, the rise here is sharp, so steep that in some places you could stand with one foot on the prairie and the other on the mountain slope. This unique geography creates a rare environmental zone where pronghorn antelope roam alongside grizzly bears and bighorn sheep. The vertical wall shapes the wind and weather, producing some of the most dramatic scenery in the United States. Here, the plains end and the mountains begin, a boundary where Montana's two worlds collide, raw and untamed. 12. The mini Grand Canyon of the North. Deep in southern Montana, the Bighorn River has carved a spectacular geographical wonder, Bighorn Canyon. Stretching over 50 miles, its sheer limestone walls rise up to 1,000 feet above the water. Geologists say it formed through superimposition, where the river maintained its course as mountains slowly rose around it, cutting through rock over millions of years. Today, Bighorn Canyon National Recreation Area lets visitors boat through these narrow stone corridors, reminiscent of the desert Southwest. The landscape, high desert plateaus and rugged cliffs, is a stark contrast to Montana's lush western forests, a hidden world where the relentless power of moving water is carved in every vertical wall. 11. The wild beauty of the Missouri River Breaks. The Upper Missouri River Breaks National Monument in central Montana spans roughly 375,000 acres of rugged, untamed wilderness. This region is defined by its striking white cliffs, sculpted from light-colored sandstone by the persistent flow of the Missouri River over millions of years. The erosion has carved shapes that resemble ancient castles, modern art, or towering monuments, creating a landscape both dramatic and hauntingly beautiful. The geography here is incredibly complex. Deep coulees, badlands, and eroded plateaus stretch away from the river, forming a natural labyrinth that has kept this land wild and largely unsettled longer than most of the American West. Floating down the Missouri today, You are essentially traveling back in time, seeing the landscape much as Meriwether Lewis and William Clark saw it in 1805. The cliffs, narrow valleys, and rolling badlands provide habitat for bighorn sheep, elk, and countless other species, making it a living testament to both geological forces and ecological resilience. Here, the history of the Earth is literally laid bare in every layer of stone and silt, revealing the raw power of water and time. The Missouri Breaks are not just a place. They are a journey into the wild heart of Montana. 10. The ancient sandstone sentinels of Billings. If you visit Billings, Montana, you cannot miss the towering sandstone cliffs that loom over the city, known locally as the Rim Rocks or simply the Rims. These dramatic cliffs are part of the Eagle Sandstone Formation, dating back 70 to 80 million years, when this region was the shoreline of the Western Interior Seaway, a vast ocean that split North America in two. Over time, sand deposited along that ancient beach was compacted into the stone we see today. The rims rise 200 to 500 feet above the valley floor, creating a breathtaking geographical backdrop for the city below. But they are more than a scenic wonder. They provide a popular destination for hiking and rock climbing, offering a unique urban wilderness experience within Montana's largest city. Standing at their base, it's impossible not to feel the weight of millions of years of geological history, a silent sentinel reminding us of a time when this land was underwater, part of a prehistoric ocean. 9. A sandstone landmark with a famous signature. Rising about 150 feet above the Yellowstone River, Pompey's Pillar is a striking sandstone outcrop and an important geographical feature of the Hell Creek Formation. Although it covers only about 1 acre at its base, its historical and cultural significance is immense. Long before European explorers arrived, it served as a landmark and signpost for indigenous peoples who left petroglyphs on its surface. Pompey's Pillar is most famous for containing the only remaining physical evidence of the Lewis and Clark expedition along their entire route. On July 25, 1806, William Clark carved his name and the date into the rock. He named the pillar after Jean-Baptiste Charbonneau, the son of Sacagawea, whom Clark nicknamed Pomp. Today, standing on or near the pillar provides a clear view of the Yellowstone River Valley, explaining why it has served as a significant geographical waypoint for thousands of years. 8. The secret canyon of the Smith River. Montana is home to many famous rivers, but the Smith River offers a geographical experience unlike any other, so exclusive that visitors need a permit from the state to navigate it. Flowing through a deep limestone canyon in central Montana, the 59-mile stretch between Camp Baker and Edenbridge is the only river in the state managed through a lottery system to prevent overcrowding. The canyon's geography is breathtaking. Towering limestone walls rise nearly 1,000 feet above the water, forming a secluded world with no roads and few signs of human presence. The river's shallow, winding course requires careful navigation, but rewards adventurers with pristine scenery, exceptional trout fishing, and countless caves and rock shelters. Many of these shelters contain ancient pictographs, remnants of the early inhabitants who once called this hidden canyon home. The Smith River is a rare blend of geology, history, and untouched wilderness, preserved in one of Montana's most remarkable landscapes. 7. The mathematical precision of Square Butte. In the plains of central Montana, there is a geological formation so perfectly shaped it seems almost artificial, Square Butte. Geologists classify it as a laccolith, a massive intrusion of volcanic rock that forced its way between layers of sedimentary rock without breaking the surface. Over millions of years, the surrounding softer rock eroded away, leaving a flat-topped mountain with nearly vertical sides. Square Butte's geography is fascinating. It is composed of alkali-rich gabbro, which cooled slowly underground, forming distinct horizontal layers still visible today. Rising over 2,000 feet above the prairie, it serves as a prominent landmark, visible for dozens of miles in every direction. This striking formation is a perfect example of how deep volcanic activity can sculpt the Earth, producing geometric landforms that stand as monuments to the forces shaping our planet. 6. The hydrological marvel of the 50-mile riffle. The Madison River is world-famous among anglers, but one section stands out as a remarkable geographical oddity, the 50-mile riffle. Stretching from Ennis toward Reed's Pass, this portion of the river maintains a remarkably consistent gradient and depth. Unlike typical rivers, which alternate between deep pools and shallow rapids, the Madison here flows steadily over a bed of cobble-sized rocks for nearly 50 miles, creating a massive, continuous riffle. This unique geography produces an ideal habitat for aquatic insects, which in turn feed the abundant trout, essentially forming a giant natural food factory. The uniform flow also presents a challenge for navigation, as there are very few places where the water truly slows down. The 50-mile riffle is a rare example of a river maintaining consistent character over such a vast distance, showcasing the remarkable interplay between hydrology and geology. 5. Mountains made of gems. West of the Continental Divide in Granite County, Montana, lie the Sapphire Mountains. Unlike most ranges named for appearance or famous figures, this one is named for the actual treasures hidden within its geography. Around the town of Phillipsburg, the region is one of the most productive sapphire mining areas in the world. Geologically, these sapphires formed deep in the Earth's mantle and were brought to the surface by volcanic activity around 50 million years ago. Unlike the Yogo sapphires of central Montana, the stones here are alluvial, washed from their original rock by ancient rivers and deposited in gravel beds. The geography of the range features dense forests and rugged peaks, but it is the hidden wealth beneath the surface that defines its significance. Visitors still come today to sift through gravel, hoping to uncover a piece of Montana's geological treasure. 4. The geography of absolute zero. Montana holds the record for the coldest temperature ever recorded in the contiguous United States, and its location reveals a fascinating lesson in mountain geography. On January 20, 1954, a weather station at Rogers Pass recorded a staggering -70 degrees Fahrenheit. Sitting on the Continental Divide at an elevation of 5,610 feet, Rogers Pass is shaped like a natural bowl. This topography allows dense, frigid Arctic air to flow over the divide from the east and become trapped in the low-lying areas. On clear, calm nights with fresh snow, the air remains stagnant and continues to cool rapidly, creating a perfect combination of elevation, topography, and atmospheric pressure. This extreme setting produced a record that still stands in the lower 48 states. Here, the geography literally dictates the limits of cold and survival, showcasing the power of Montana's mountainous terrain. 3. The jagged border of the Bitterroot Range. Montana's western border with Idaho is not straight. It follows the crests of the Bitterroot Range, giving the state a jagged, irregular profile. This rugged geography features sharp granite peaks and deep glacial valleys, which made travel nearly impossible for early explorers. Meriwether Lewis and William Clark struggled across the range, nearly starving as they navigated the historic Lolo Trail. The highest point in the range is Trapper Peak, rising to 10,157 feet. Because the border follows the Continental Divide along the mountaintops, it also serves as a natural geographical barrier, separating the watersheds of the Columbia and Missouri rivers. The Bitterroots are a striking reminder that many state lines were shaped not by straight survey lines, but by the physical challenges of the landscape, creating a wild, beautiful boundary where nature dictates the edge of human territory. 2. The vast silence of the Bob Marshall Wilderness. Montana is home to one of the most legendary wilderness areas in the world, the Bob Marshall Wilderness, often called simply the Bob. This vast complex, which also includes the Great Bear and Scapegoat Wilderness areas, covers over 1.5 million acres of completely roadless territory. Here, the only way to travel is on foot or horseback, preserving a landscape that remains largely untouched by human activity. The geography is dominated by the massive limestone cliffs of the Chinese Wall and the winding headwaters of the Flathead River, forming one of the most ecologically complete mountain ecosystems in the lower 48 states. Every native mammal species still roams here, except for the bison, including grizzly bears, wolves, and mountain lions. The pristine, unbroken corridor allows wildlife to travel for hundreds of miles, and the scale of the wilderness is so immense it can even be seen from space. 1. The county that is bigger than 3 states. To truly understand the immense scale of Montana's geography, you need to look at Beaverhead County, located in the southwestern corner of the state. Beaverhead is the largest of Montana's 56 counties, covering a staggering 5,542 square miles. To put that into perspective, it is larger than the entire state of Connecticut and significantly bigger than Rhode Island and Delaware combined. Despite its massive size, the population density is extremely low, with fewer than 2 people per square mile, making it one of the most sparsely populated areas in the lower 48 states. The geography of Beaverhead County is remarkable. It features high-altitude valleys, rugged mountain ranges along the Continental Divide, and even the source of the Missouri River. Driving through this county, you can spend hours exploring without ever leaving it, passing through endless cattle ranches, rolling plains, and towering peaks. The scale of the land is awe-inspiring, embodying the big sky geography that Montana is famous for. This is a place where the horizon seems to stretch forever, and the vastness of the landscape is almost impossible to comprehend. After learning these 35 fascinating facts about Montana, we want to hear from you. Which fact surprised you the most? Which one did you find the most interesting? Leave your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to see if others picked the same facts as you. And if you have a fun fact we missed, or want to add your own insight, please share it. Your feedback helps us make every video even better. Also, if you noticed any pronunciation slips here and there, thank you for your patience. We are working hard to improve with every video. And speaking of videos, there's another one on the screen right now, so you can continue exploring the incredible geography of our country. Don't forget to subscribe and give this video a like so we can keep learning together. See you in the next one.